The Pacific Ocean stretches toward the horizon, a vast expanse of deep blue that pulses against the jagged edges of the coast. Waves break in rhythmic succession, sending white foam sliding across the sand. Then, the perspective shifts. Following the curve of the shoreline, the eye catches a sudden, sharp geometry rising from the water. It is Benelong Point. There, the Sydney Opera House stands, its white sails arching toward the sky like wings caught in mid-flight. The sun strikes the surface, turning the concrete into a brilliant, blinding white that contrasts against the dark, shifting currents below. It does not look built. It looks as if it grew from the harbor itself, a deliberate collision of stone and tide. Every angle defies the gravity of the surrounding landscape. The structure commands the space, anchoring the harbor with a weight that feels both permanent and impossible. Ferries navigate the channel nearby, while the light plays across the complex curves of the roof. This is a beacon of human intent, sitting silent and watchful. The legend did not arrive as a finished form. It began as a stack of sketches on a desk, lines drawn by Jørn Utzon that defied the physics of his time. The site at Benelong Point was once a hive of raw, grinding labor. Heavy machinery tore into the earth, churning the soil into thick, gray mud. Engineers stood over blueprints, their faces tight, tracing lines that refused to connect. They were trying to build the impossible. Steel skeletons rose from the ground, jagged and exposed, reaching into the air like the ribs of a giant. Every beam required a new calculation, every curve a new compromise. Money drained away as fast as the concrete poured, and the project stalled. The air at the site grew heavy with the sound of grinding metal and the shouting of crews struggling to lock the segments into place. Critics gathered at the perimeter, watching the delays mount, waiting for the collapse. The dream was under siege. Every day, the workers fought to secure the steel, to force the geometry to hold, and to keep the structure from buckling under its own weight. The final piece hung suspended in the salt air. It was a massive, curved slab of concrete, swaying slightly against the wind. Below, the harbor remained still, as if the water itself were holding its breath. Thousands of eyes watched from the perimeter, waiting for the failure that seemed inevitable. The crane groaned, its steel cables taut, vibrating with the immense tension of the load. Slowly, the shell began to rise. It moved with agonizing deliberation, inching toward the apex of the structure. The silence on the site was absolute, broken only by the rhythmic clanking of the chain. Every worker stood frozen, hands gripped on guide ropes, muscles locked against the strain. The shell drifted, tilted, and then caught the light. It aligned with the existing frame. There was a sudden, sharp, metallic thud as the bolts engaged. The crane operator eased the tension, and the weight shifted, settling firmly into its permanent home. The structure held. The curve was complete. Gravity had lost its grip on the impossible, and for the first time in a decade, the site fell silent. Not with the sound of struggle, but with the stillness of a finished masterpiece. The dust of the construction site settled, replaced by the crisp, expectant air of 1973. A red ribbon stretched across the entrance, taut and bright against the white concrete. Queen Elizabeth II stepped forward. The scissors clicked, and the barrier fell away. The doors swung wide, inviting the world into a space that had once been nothing more than a series of impossible equations. Inside, the raw, echoing chambers transformed. The grand foyers hummed with the movement of thousands, their footsteps clicking against polished floors. Then, the silence broke. A single violin note pierced the air, followed by the swell of a full orchestra. The concert hall vibrated with the force of brass and strings, the sound waves bouncing off the soaring, shell-like ceilings. In the Joan Sutherland Theater, the heavy curtains parted. Dancers leaped, their feet striking the stage with rhythmic precision, their bodies tracing arcs that mirrored the architecture above. Opera singers filled the space with resonant, soaring melodies that seemed to pull the very air into harmony. The building was no longer a static monument of steel and stone. It was a living, breathing crucible of expression. Every corridor carried the hum of rehearsals. Every hall pulsed with the energy of 1,000 stories told at once. The masterpiece had finally awakened. As the final notes of the evening fade, the sun dips below the horizon, casting long violet shadows across the harbor. The sails catch the last of the light, turning from brilliant white to soft shades of orange and deep purple. Slowly, the city wakes. Lights begin to twinkle along the shoreline, and the harbor bridge emerges as a dark steel silhouette against the deepening sky. Then, the building itself responds. Its white shells ignite, glowing from within, casting a steady, luminous reflection onto the dark, shimmering water below. Ferries glide past, their wake cutting through the light, while the harbor traffic slows to a rhythmic pulse. The structure stands firm, a silent guardian of culture, watching over the city as it drifts into the night. It is a beacon of human vision.